こんにちは。私は本物の日本人なんですけれども、今日は去る日本の大企業から参りました。そしてこれがプレイステーションです。
A little over 22 years ago, Japan saw the release of the original PlayStation. And in celebration of many a gamer's love for all things old being made new, Colorware has made a limited run of PS4 Pros redesigned in the image of their great-grandfather. Now, those of you Sony fans with an eye for collector's editions will recall that Sony made a batch of their own original PS4s styled after the originals for their 20th anniversary, which was awesome. But their main goal with those was to just bring back old color schemes and throw them over a new system, whereas these Pros have a bit more interesting attention to detail. To begin with, obviously the system is gray like the original, but you'll also notice that the middle bar of the PS4 triple-decker sandwich is a darker gray, based off of the buttons on the original PlayStation, which were a different tone to add a bit of accenting. So, the color's right, which is a good start, but it's all the little extra touches that make this thing so cool. For instance, the two front USB ports are now labeled 1 and 2 in the same font as the controller ports of the original. And you'll also notice that the Sony and PS4 etchings on the front are done in light blue and light green, which match the colorings of the power button and open buttons text from the original system. The absolute coolest thing about this redesign, though, to me, is how they handled the logo. If you look at a regular PlayStation 4 Pro, the PlayStation logo up top is going to be facing sideways relative to the front of the system, because when it's in tower mode, that makes sense. But on an original PlayStation 1, which you're always going to have sideways, the logo is facing the front of the system. So they actually redid this PlayStation 4 Pro's logo to be facing this way. And I don't know what exact method they used. I don't know if they sanded it down and put this decal on top, or if they filled it in and painted over it and put it on. But it recreates that original look, which is just really an amazing attention to detail. Now, taking a look at the controller, you'll see that Colorware did things a little differently compared to how Sony approached their 20th anniversary design. The same basic idea is here, it's a gray finish like the original system, but they even redid the touchpad to match the entire aesthetic. Plus, since this is using the newly redesigned DualShock, it's actually closer because it has these gray sticks and buttons as opposed to pure black like you'll see on the 20th anniversary design. Another thing too is that it still uses the basic PlayStation button, which is black rather than using the colored symbol, but this is actually more accurate to original PS1 controllers. When you look at those, it's just a gray PlayStation logo, not the colorful one. You know, looking at this system, I can't help but think about how all of this was made possible thanks to Nintendo basically being jerks a long time ago, and how much time has changed the console war. Released back on December 3rd, 1994, the original PlayStation was the new gaming console in town, going up against the likes of Nintendo and Sega, and a handful of other companies struggling on the side like Atari and Neo Geo. Now, this wasn't the original plan. Originally, Sony was working with Nintendo on a CD-based game expansion for the Super Nintendo. At least, that was the plan. At literally the last second, CES 1991, Nintendo announced that they would instead be partnering with Philips, which was not only a shock to Sony, but also planted the seeds for this monstrosity and stain on the Legend of Zelda franchise.
How about a kiss for luck?
You've got to be kidding.
Sony instead went on to making their own console. Not only was the original PlayStation a success, but its successor, the PS2, dominated its generation in sales and is to this day the most sold console of all time. And that's really what makes this redesign and paint job so special. It'd be so much easier to just leave it at recoloring the system's body and top logo, but Colorware went really all out with adding all these nice little touches that create more of the style of the original system beyond simply matching colors. Not that there's anything wrong with how Sony handled their own 20th anniversary system, it's just that with this design, you can really tell how it was handled with the love and care of true fans.